what about how do you find yourself reflecting on
When
aging?
I was very young, all I wanted to do was to get out of school. And so I realized, damn it, 3 more years, 2 more years. But now the number is distracting me. And so I'm coming to terms with uh, what that means. And people say, "How are you doing?" I don't know how to answer that question. I'm alive, I'm vertical. What I think about is I'm still interested. And my fear isn't of dying. And I'm sure the hospital's waiting for me. But I kind of worried about losing interest because that's where my aliveness comes from. I've answered all the questions of my years are answered. Some of the answers aren't pretty, you know. Some are grateful for. Can you make a living? Can you find love? Can you be loved? Can you raise children? Will they turn out to be okay? I don't claim victory, but those are I'm complete about those things. I know how those are going to work. And the other thing I wanted to thought of and triggered by your question is I have a friend who's a nutritional fanatic. And I said to him, when is it too late to start uh, caring about your diet? Because it's not a quick thing. You don't, you know, eat a piece of fruit and then next day you feel better. And he said, well, if you have 5 minutes to live, you have plenty of time. And that was very powerful to me. My question now is, so maybe I've only just begun.
Um,
And
I'm sorry.
oh,
This is potentially particularly to you, a really dumb question, but I'll ask it, and you can make fun of me. Uh, how do you feel about the issue of relevance?
exactly. Exactly. That's been the whole point, hasn't it? See, I have been slow in understanding that I am relevant, impactful. Uh, I don't know. I have numbers I can show you, but in the scale of things, they mean nothing. But I struggle with that. I don't. I have to ignore the culture in so many ways that thinks that the next generation knows something. I am unwilling to pass the torch, even if it's useless. What do
Peter,
you mean by
Peter,
relevance?
Peter, could you say that one more time? I'm willing or unwilling to pass the
I'm
torch?
unwilling to pass the torch to the next generation,
Okay. Even if it's useless?
even if my holding it has no meaning.
And so you make that statement because there's something inside of you that uh, feels deeply about it. What's that?
No. Uh, I've just, in yoga, the breath, and they start the yoga session by breath is one thing that we have in common. In your world, curiosity is what keeps us alive. And I need a point. I need a reason and I always have. And it's my greatest gift and my greatest weakness. My messaging to myself is, Peter, just shut up. Because I have this compulsion that wherever I am, I think my being there should make a difference. And it becomes obsessive at times. I mean, what else is there? I mean, I think, what's the alternative to relevance? Pleasure?
At one point in life, that would have been very alluring. I remember that point. Uh, like it was an actual goal, having things and what they meant and what they meant to the story of myself or what they potentially could mean. So what has the urge or the push, the motive toward relevance cost you, uh, either
Exactly.
relationally, professionally, physically? What does it cost you?
Well, my daughters, uh, who are in their 58, 60, uh, when I hear them tell their story, I was gone. And my father wasn't around. That was the work that I did. I don't remember it that way, but I think also I don't know, it's been an escape for me. Uh, it's been an obsession at times. So it's cost me in relationship to my children, to women in my life, uh, my own peace of mind. Sometimes my mind is not on my side, and I'm stunned that sometimes something will be on my mind, and I'll think about what I want to say or do, and I'll think about the same exact thoughts 30, 40 times in a 24-hour period. And I watched this, say, Peter, you've rehearsed this, what you're going to say or write or do or did or done 32 times, comma, 33 times. So there's some kind of peace. It's cost me a peace, ease, peace of mind.
You,
I don't
you,
know what that is.
Peter, you mentioned to me when we talked yesterday about that you'd done a book with, is it Peter Kestenbaum? I
Yes,
forget, yeah. And and which I glanced at the book. I didn't. So you wrote a book with him uh 2 years ago, and he's passed away now, correct? Okay.
yes.
But he said something, either you said it to me
No,
or
he said it.
no,
He,
I mean he said a bunch of things that was interesting, but the one about no, in one of the quotes he spent is in earlier in life, he was in, he said he fixed it. He was focused on the meaning of his life and how it really, how death informed his life.
the
Is that,
vitality of death.
yeah. Could you, what is the vitality of death?
He gave voice to the fact if we didn't know we were going to die, our life would have no meaning. You want to go to a movie? We'll go in 10 years. Don't worry about it. And he wrote a book about this is existentialist philosophy. Viktor Frankl,
Yeah.
who created a philosophy out of his concentration camp experience.
Yeah.
And so Peter that was his part of his belief system was if I didn't know I was going to die, my life would have no meaning. So he wrote a book on the vitality of death.
Right.
That I I met him when I was 40, and that was an awakening that was grateful, stunning. And he told me, I heard him give a talk, and he said, if you're lonely, anxious, don't connect well with people, worry about what your life's about, there's nothing wrong with you. It means you're a human being. For some reason, I not only heard that, but I believed him. And he said what he gave his life to what it means to be human. And it begins with the idea that we're going to die. So get on with it. Quit whining. That's why you and I are still on a goddamn Zoom call. We made our point. Anybody we wanted to impress, it didn't work and it won't.
So wait, I gotta get this cleaned up here. Um, there was something
So
I'll get he said oh, the vitality of death. Uh, unless this is Kesselbaum out of your book, I think, but I'm not sure, but unless the distant goals of meaning, greatness, and destiny are addressed, we can't make an intelligent decision about what to do tomorrow morning.
exactly. And it's a whole,
But
it's
as you
a,
know, a lot of people avoid meaning and all of that is viewed as impractical, you know.
I think a lot of speaking does that. I don't know any human being that's been able to avoid it.
Yeah.
And I think, I write a lot about the world that I inhabit, which is a consumer culture, is a huge argument against meaning. And it's an argument that you're not enough. And I have something in mind for you. My
Yeah.
demographic is pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me that during the Super Bowl, uh, a Christian group took an ad that basically said, you're enough. Every other ad told me I needed something more.
Oh,
Okay. But there was a little 30-second moment when they said, you're enough. And
oh.
so to me, that's why you and I are such radicals, because uh, you know, and I think aging gives you the luxury of time and the absence of a future. I'm single digits now in my life expectancy, and I know science would not lie to
It's always right.
me.
It's been there for us.
And so I think it's a gift. That's why the other thing I mentioned, Peter said that retirement is the anteroom of death. In that sense, he was not viewing death as a positive thing. But why invite it prematurely?
So people frame retirement, um, I'd say many people, in the context of a certain number of years. They're looking forward to it. I want to, and there's that framework. And then there's the financial part of it. And then there's the look at me, I don't have to do this other thing I did. And oftentimes, you know, and oftentimes they're doing it with such unhappiness, and but it's all that they've known, and there's a lot of risks involved in not doing that. So I understand that. In fact, when you work with people, I'm working with people in their 50s, pretty in their late 40s, 50s, friends of mine that I've been working with for 10 or 15 years, and they're getting tired when they're about 50. Do you remember that feeling?
I once had a doctor who says, Peter, do you suffer from tension? And I said, I don't know. I've never been relaxed.
Exactly. I knew that was a dead end question when
Of
I asked it.
course, of course, I remember the being tired.
I mean,
I mean,
tired, like, I mean, they talk like I'm tired. I don't know I don't know if I have more life left in me, that type of thing,
I totally agree with that. I think they're longing for liberation. Retirement is a placeholder for liberation.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm tired. And but the solution is not a massage. The solution is to begin to ask the question, am I enough? Have I done enough? Your healing work with these men and women in their 40s and 50s is to let them know that they're enough.
Yeah.
I'm tired of my aspirations. My days are pathetic. I'm sitting down most of the time. Come on.
Yeah. Um, I think I told you the story that my brush with fame, other than you, of course, uh, and a couple of other people, was the time I talked with Norman Lear, and he called me. I had this project I did, I think, where one of my projects, an atheist was selling his soul on eBay, and I bought it, right? And so it was a bidding war, which I did just because I admired him. Actually, I thought this is a great idea. And because it's a game, because an atheist, of course, doesn't have a soul, an eternal soul to bother with. So it was a big scam on me. At any rate, this got in the Wall Street Journal. So I get this call from Norman Lear, who I don't know, I only know of. And ironically, he called because of the article in the Wall Street Journal. And I was just stunned that I thought as my friends, this is actually Norman Lear on the phone with all of that, right? I was just sort of frozen. I was talking to myself, don't screw this up, just let Norman talk. So, so Norman starts talking, and and two things happen. I realized later he was 86 years old at the time, right? He was 86, and at that point, and literally, Peter, in my mind, I said to myself, this is the last phone call this guy's having. I mean, he's gone. This is over, right? This is in my mind. And so uh, the second thing that was really funny is that he just made a glancing blow on my project and immediately went into pitching me what I thought of an idea he was having about a show he wanted to do. Norman Lear is asking me what I think of this, and I'm thinking, this is so human. This is like, this guy's anxious about getting an idea right. And he's asking me because he thinks I have this expertise, which I didn't have, you know, I didn't have. And he wanted to know what I thought. I thought, God, it just never ends.
What did that mean to you? Why is it still so alive for you?
It was very fun. Well, it told me about humanity. It told me about, well, there were several things about it that, uh, listen, he went on to live to 102, and he did a contract at 98 with Sony Pictures for 2 years, right, to produce actual TV shows, which he actually did. It wasn't a placeholder. So I watched him. He has become for me a marker. He and other music people like Quincy Jones, the guy Doc Severinsen who played trumpet with Johnny Carson, um, Willie Nelson, BB King, all these people were going into their 80s playing musicians, right? Which was I relate to principally. So it gave me like, wow, for what it meant to me and has meant to me is like, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep
Exactly.
going.
Exactly. Uh, and you don't need a lot of evidence. All you needed was Norman Lear.
That's right.
I
And now,
like the notion of one-shot conditioning.
yeah,
So
yeah,
a psychologist named McClellan did research in the 40s with pigeons. And if they were innocent pigeons, and he gave them a red and blue dot, one of which gave them a pellet and one didn't. Once they hit the blue dot and got a pellet, they hit the blue dot forever. And he calls it one-shot conditioning. You see something once, question answer.
yeah. Very
I
interesting.
believe it. I believe in that.
Yeah, very
And how
interesting.
old are you? You're a baby, aren't you?
Yeah, as I'm a young 77-year-old. How would you
No,
advise me? And when you were 77,
exactly.
what do you wish you had been doing at my young age?
Exactly. Walter Brueggemann was 82 and I was 77, something like that. And he heard me whining. Okay. And he said, Peter, I wish I had the energy of a 77-year-old.
Oh
Right.
boy, that is too
I know
funny.
it's well, it forces the issue, you know. And I don't know. You know, Norman Lear, I don't aspire to be to live a day longer than I am, but I don't take it for granted. And there come a point when I don't have the energy. You know, I just haven't reached it. I'm the 1% for God's sake. I mean, I'm assaulted from every direction. I go to a goddamn dentist to have a root canal. Why I still care about my teeth, I don't understand. And he asked me all these questions about medications, blah, 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 before he works on me. He looks at it, he says, Peter, you're the 1%. Okay. 1% answer these questions with this little intervention and medication that you're living with. And then I read somewhere else that people live my age, 1% of the population will be this old. And so, and then people are family members and everybody's telling me, you know, without knowing who they're with, they say, the guy was over 80 for God's sake.
All the time.
He breathed.
Oh,
He breathed. And then they don't realize that they ruined my quarter. Okay. It takes me 3 months to get over one sentence like that.
exactly. I'm not, I'm not, I mean, I have that experience. I have people, they forget. Well, part of it, so they talk about that, the nature of working with people who are younger than you and them forgetting or not paying attention to your
Right.
age.
I know. Well, I always have a choice trying to get out of the sun. I always have a choice about how I respond. I don't find them interesting because of their age. I become age neutral.
Mm,
I'm not that interested in what youth are doing now.
yeah.
I don't feel they're my future. All that talk is a form of resignation. Uh,
Oh, what talk?
you know, pass the torch. The youth is our future.
Got it.
We have to invest in, everybody wants to invest in our youth.
Yeah,
And so I don't know, you're still faced with what to do with your day.
yeah.
And I'm writing about the politics of refusal, the politics of departure, and the whole notion of protest and activism and trying to change the world to me is a defense against the world changing because it's waiting for someone else's. And this is the whole theme of my life, my intellectual life.
mm,
because I'm not willing to wait for someone else's transformation.
mm.
And so I don't know. I have doubts about whether I have anything more to say. I read articles I wrote 20 years ago, and they're more current than what I'm writing now. And I think, I mean, you edit books you wrote 45 years ago, and I realize I have nothing new to say, comma, eye contact, and still you say it anyway.
Well, what is there to do? I mean, uh,
I
what do
know.
we expect of ourselves? I mean, we
Exactly.
get fixated on a thing and then we elaborate on it
Go deeper.
and we just find to me it's like music. It's like there's something that fascinates you about the sound.
Amen. Oh, you like that song, so you're just going to listen to it once? And I'll know when there's no listening. And but it's hard. Every time you write something, there's a fraudulent aspect to it. And you send it out anyway.
What, how do you feel about having ideas? This is a sincere question, not, it's not a setup or or even a softball. How do you feel about thinking thoughts that are and ideas that it takes people 20 years to catch up to?
I don't frame it that I'm ahead of them. I do experience the loneliness of having unpopular thoughts. And I don't know whether it's courage or arrogance to hold them anyway, give voice to my, you know, it turns out that I kind of have a facility, as you do, for typing and talking. So why wouldn't I use that? And if the phone stops ringing or dinging, but I don't know. These are hard questions, and you don't approach them with confidence. But I will say that having stayed in a domain for so long, the thoughts that I've had that have always been a little counter something have been affirmed. The book I wrote in 1978, still working. People tell me, oh, it's this book, that book, that book.
Yeah.
And so in fact, the question I would ask myself is, Peter, why have you thought so little of yourself for so long? And what's dawning on me now is maybe what you and I hold uh, in the niche that we occupy. When you're in that room and you go around the room and ask people to be curious with each other, and you know the politics of that. Why are we willing to be a retreat? I've been thinking lately that maybe what I should be giving voice to, that every minute of when we're together needs to be radically reorganized. Staff meetings, council meetings, legislatures, town hall meetings, church meetings, wherever we gather, you know the power of a circle. And a question that you have, maybe you've changed your mind, but curiosity is one way of holding it. Okay. Why don't you and I be a stance in the world for that being at the center of every single time we gather?
So I have the impression from the times we met that you're deciding to live locally in Cincinnati has something to do with this, what you're describing in terms of a practice, forcing yourself to practice this,
That,
like an intervention on yourself.
yes,
So how's that going?
it's extremely frustrating. But I don't know, too many change agents don't do anything in their neighborhood. Now, my wife got me started on that. I was going to write a book on community, and Kathy said, "Don't you think you should try it before you write about it?" And it's hard. The reward is I know the backstory of where I live, and I see people, but it's painful. It's the helplessness I feel of doing something 2 blocks away that mattered. Most of my projects don't work. And, yesterday morning and that's the point. I feel better about myself that I'm still engaged, knowing that my ideas and what I do aren't making much of a difference. So what?
Yeah, so what? Why do you keep at it?
Yeah, what conclusions do I draw that I had enough of a voice in my neighborhood, 10,000 people, that when a bunch of African Americans were gathering in the park on afternoons and early evening to stop them calling for the police to kick them out. Okay, Peter, fine. I said, why don't we find out who they are? Okay. So I held a couple of meetings. Nobody else but me was interested. What do I do with that? I don't, did I frame it wrong? Am I too arrogant? You know, I don't know. But so what? I know that I stay connected with my local people and I can't avoid them. I see these people in the produce department. I saw them yesterday morning in meetings. I know they really think I'm a danger to society. And you walk up to them and are forced to say, "Hi, John, how are you?" There's something in that that's politics at its best. I believe in that.
What's in it for you though? What eternal benefit is that? What's it exercising? What's it working on that you
That
enjoy the process? What is that?
I don't know. My greatest doubts about my own authenticity. My doubts about you are small compared to wondering whether. And I said, okay, Peter, you have it in you to live with the consequences of your action. God bless you. When I first started getting involved here, uh, I was in a small group of my own construction. And Damon, Peter, okay, what's the courage required of you? And I said, to go public. I'm not sure I have the skin for it. So it affirms to me that I've made a commitment here.
I think people would find it interesting. I find it interesting because you've lived, you've had the privilege, the benefit, the opportunity uh, to have parts of your life have been rather visible, large public life. You're a known person, all of that. The idea of practicing in private
Beautiful.
when people don't know this other part of your life.
Some of them do and use it against me.
Well, let's talk about the ones who don't, the ones that don't appreciate who you are, et cetera.
No, I'm saying that when I've taken stances in the neighborhood, People come up to me, Peter, you write about community? You're phony. You don't know anything about community and you're wrong. That's even worse than people don't know who I am. No, but I know.
No, that's good.
That
What's
mean, which
worse is
means that
they,
the point you're making is a good one. I have to be, I'm getting started every day. I don't want
what prompts though that discipline?
part.
What prompts that? It's like the discipline that you exercise, on the mat. You do something at 9:30 every day. You never had a practice. But this is a practice. This is a practice of, right, where you expose yourself because growth depends on resistance, right? We can't, the muscle problem getting older, you have to have resistance. And so
Great point.
what motivates you to
Exactly.
expose yourself to that level of resistance where
Yes,
people can say things to you that literally you don't have to put up with if you don't want to.
I know.
What
I
is
want
it?
to. I don't, I spent enough of my life hiding.
Okay.
That's what I mean. If I got 5 minutes to left to change my diet, and I don't know. You spend your life, the most elusive thing in your life is your own integrity. Nobody knows what a fraud you are except you. And I don't, if I listen to Peter, what he told me was my doubts are because I'm a human being, not because I haven't.
Yeah.
I'm uncertified. And you asking the question the way you ask is a declaration you're making
Yeah.
that this is the right question.
Yeah. It's all a risk. Um,
How
memory,
is this going? Let me ask you,
but
how is this conversation going? Are you,
really well. It's wandering into areas that I enjoy, but I want to be respectful and keep
I
things
got nothing to do except go down to the grocery store and meet somebody who doesn't like me.
exactly. These, these are great titles. I wish I may title this because I wish I had the energy of a 77-year-old. Okay, memory. My question has to do with your observations about the role of memory in our life as a function, not the memories, plural, but that's interesting. But like you remembered the Dodgers and all of that. But I mean, as one ages, how has it been for you, either sort of thinking about memory and its role?
Well, I don't know who I am without a history. The challenge is to view it without having an opinion. And I always thought that therapy was helping you re-remember your past in a more forgiving way. But I was with a woman Friday who can trace her lineage back to King Suleiman and the Coptic tradition of Ethiopia.
Hmm.
And she showed me the whole, and I'm a Jew. Well, I never want to forget that. If you ask me who I am, it's the only thing I'm certain of. And I don't know, I think even collectively, when we modernize things, we eradicate memory as if this place has no history. And so I don't know how to be with you and be in a place if I think it just was started yesterday. But I can't view it with opinions. I just accept it for what it is. See it without judgment. This is what I learned from Warner Earhart. Is that transformation begins with you looking at the story that you hold, see it for what it is without having a judgment about it.
Why is that important?
Because it allows you to let go of it. You're no longer defined by it. that the story I have of me, a wandering Jew, let's just take that as a simple example, okay? So I lived that for the first 60 years of my life, till I thought I was. Every time I moved, I couldn't remember who was next door 3 weeks after I left. And I thought that's who I was. And then I realized, well, that's just a story I had. There was some truth to it. Jews don't belong anywhere. And but then once I see it, then I say, well, now I have a choice in the matter. So I decided to become a citizen of Cincinnati. When that guy asked me what courage is required of you, it's to show up here in a way that I can't wander, I can't escape. And so once I could see that being a wandering Jew is part of who I am, but so what? Now what?
Mm.
So what? Now what? And that's for all of us, your mother this, your father this, your family this, your history this. Uh, it doesn't define me, it doesn't explain me, but it helps me know that I'm not just, yeah.
Um, as I've gotten older, and I inherited a tradition where a lot of life was lived in anticipation of the future, the next life, and all of that. Uh, and the value of that. And so one goes through sufferings because one is looking forward to it. All that's become much more vague. much
Or what?
All of that has become much more vague to me, right? I'm much
I
less.
know.
Okay, so my question is, um, what is the story you've told yourself or inherited or with the idea of what happens? I'm dead. I'm dead. What happens next? This is not a religious question. I'm just curious how people
Well,
make sense
that
of
question meant something to you.
it did,
Now
and
it's
then
become vague. You no
right,
longer are
right,
the center of a negotiation, quid
right,
pro quo,
right,
reward, carrot, stick.
right,
Suffer now, don't worry about it, you'll be rewarded later.
right.
That has faded for you as a motivational factor.
Uh,
So I think that's to me, I never I've been transactional in terms of especially relationship with women. If I do this, you'll do that. Men I've been more at peace with. And I can give you reasons why that mean nothing, but they're my reasons why. Okay. And but I never believed in that. I just did it. And now I'm realizing that maybe I'm capable of being loved and I don't have to earn it. So the afterlife has never meant much to me, but the present life has been devastating. The deals I've made, the people I've hurt in pursuit of this bargain. I wanted it now. And now I realize it was silly. Your suffering is your suffering. It makes us human. I don't need
how do
people.
you warn someone or don't pick on me about the word.
I
How do,
already have. It's
I
too
know
late.
you have, I knew you, I
I
could,
will
I,
not say it, but in my mind, as
I,
soon as you say, "How do you warn somebody?"
exactly.
I
I felt it.
I put in a 911 call.
Okay, what I'm thinking about here is I'm 50 years old. I'm 60 years old. I'm trying to avoid, okay, I want to hear you talk out loud about this. You learned to practice of yoga when you were in your 80s? You
Whatever.
started to practice something you
I
hadn't done
started
before.
earlier, but I took it seriously at my
Okay, you
age.
you did it like it's a thing. So it's possible to keep changing, and that it sounds like that practice has helped you.
It does. It does help me. It helps me.
What are
Yes.
practices other people could put in place that might
Doesn't
in
matter.
I know it doesn't
It's something small,
yes.
unnoticeable, and regular.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's staring at a wall, it's walking in a museum. If I also, when it's not winter, weed.
What do you like about weeding? Such a Buddhist thing.
Exactly. There's nothing to like about weeding. Perfect. And I give myself an hour in the morning. I get on my hands and knees, pick out a yard of space, and take these little things out of the ground. And I like weeding because it's visual. And so later in the day when I walk by, I go, well, at least this day was worth something. But it's got to be insignificant and it's got to be slow.
Why?
Because uh, you want it to work on you. You don't want to work on it. I've got to surrender to the meaninglessness of my life. And nothing more embodies that. My wife
That's
gets
good.
impatient in traffic, okay? And she said, why is that person driving so slow? I said, Kathy, why are you in a hurry? Where we're going means nothing. Okay, we're going to the grocery store. If you get there early, what's now? This is, I'm just saying this to myself, and she happens to be in the way. Okay. But, because I, I, I've lived with an invoice from God.
What does that mean?
Well, it means when I was bored, God said to me, you owe something just because you were born. I didn't ask for it, I know, quit whining. And so I feel now, and for the last 10 years or so, I've said, have I paid my dues? It's just everybody has their own explanation, their own fiction as to why they're not enough. That was just a simple way for me to express it.
Okay, I need to ask this question because you offered it. What is your notion of God? Do you have an absent? Is it vague? Is it universal? Talk to me about why does a deity need to exist?
Because I need a placeholder for mystery. I had a friend, Neil, who felt everything eventually can be explained. And didn't believe in God. And I don't believe that's true. I think there's most of our existence, our way of being, whatever on the earth, a plant, a hippo. Science will never explain it. And so God gives me a place to put that. And it gives me a word to approach that, which I call faith. Not religion, blah, blah, blah. But I love the notion that fear knocked on the door and faith answered and nobody was there.
That's your line or someone you stole it from. Sounds like a
So
sounds like a blues song.
take it. I read it somewhere. It's not mine. But I have faith that's untouched by evidence.
Okay. Talk to me about like I have a really uh, this isn't about me, but I've had a very, as I said, at one point, a very highly constructed concept of God and what's going to happen. I still believe
You're a
in Jesus.
minister. You're a preacher, right?
It doesn't
Aren't you a
matter.
man of God?
It's like you.
Huh?
There's a lot of frauds in that business. So my question is, as I've dissembled things, the one part that I find difficult that I'd love to hear your comments on is that I find it, first of all, I find the idea of dying incredibly stupid. This is just me. Like I know that I'm an
Not just
animal.
you.
Okay, so I just think, what is the point of this? I have that in my head. And then I have a hard time imagining not being dead. I have a hard time imagining um, not being alive. Uh, that I don't understand the purpose of all of this without some extension. That all seems useless. But then what do I know? What do you know?
Well, you're making powerful declarations. I cannot understand the purpose for all of this unless there's something going on later. So that's a commercial idea that I do this now for a later reward. So even though the things you organize your life around now you call vague, okay, which is uh, there's still notion that why isn't this enough? Now it's
Isn't
not
it?
that there's a value in doing this for a later reward, for postponing gratification. But the way you frame it in your question is a statement there. I just never, I don't know, maybe it's being a Jew and I just don't have words for it. But I don't know. I
We could
then
argue
I'll
about it. We could argue about it. That'd be a Jewish way of
then I'll
handling it.
take your side.
As
That's the
long as you,
other blessing.
as long as you
If
pay
you
for
argue with
lunch.
me, I'm warning you now, I'll take your side. And that sentence organizes my life, except when it doesn't. But I don't know. I also, in talking to Peter Kestenbaum, who wrote The Vitality of Death, as he was dying, I said, Peter, and I made a video of this. I think I sent it to you. I said, so what's your thought about death now? How's it going? And he said, I don't believe in it. He said, I believe in the I am experience. And death, birth, he said, they mean nothing. They have no meaning. And they're right because I will never know them. That's how
That's
I,
true. That's true.
that's why I think when you say death seems silly to me, I understand that. Because I'm not going to have to deal with it. I won't know it. So what's the big deal? Now, when you die, it's,
Right.
and the other tragedy of age is to be last man standing.
Hmm.
And so many people that have met, I didn't even know how much they meant to me till they died. That's what's terrifying. But that's what,
And you carry, I use the phrase, I carry people in my heart. Like I carry you in my heart. I'm
yeah,
not thinking about you every moment, but like I have an
always there.
affection. There's certain people that I carry with me. And that's the place where it's this private meeting. I would appreciate seeing the video, Kestenbaum's. The tape I sent you where Ira Glass, you know who Philip Glass, you know that name? He's a composer. So they're cousins, it turns out. But they're not, they haven't been close over time, but it's so fascinating. At any rate, his vocal cadence, what I call vocal cadences, were interesting because it kept reminding me, because, and also I could even tell how he uh, laughed. He has a dismissive laugh the way Ira does. So it was genetic somehow in their five things, cousins. And I just found that amusing. Anyway, I don't think it'd be a waste of your time to listen to it.
I will
I
do
think
that.
I think you'd
Thank
be
you.
entertained beyond just the way he thinks about music. And I love the fact that he was driving cab and he was driving cab. And apparently he did a show called Einstein. He composed something famous. And then and then he picked up somebody who had been to the show, and on his taxi thing, it has name. You know, they have their names: taxi driver Ira, Philip Glass, and and the lady said, "Oh, you have the same name as a famous person." It just
That's perfect. That describes us all.
exactly
He had the same name as a famous person because what Philip Glass is not who he is.
right,
Jim Henderson, Peter
right,
Block,
right.
it's not who I am. You know,
Okay, so what is the question um,
exactly.
I should be asking? I failed to ask that I should ask.
I know.
No, I'm
Well,
asking you now. What's on your
there, uh, every single question you ask is enough. Okay. And you ask the question of yourself at the same time you ask it of me.
Yes, I have.
That's a form of love.
I totally love that.
That's the love embodied in curiosity. That's why we have a place in each other's hearts.
Right.
And the worst question I ever got from Peter Kestenbaum was the question of what's the question if you had an answer to would set you free? And freedom has been the curse of my existence. I'm collecting funeral songs because I'm trying to leave. When I die, I want to minimize the burden. So I'm answering all questions my family could have thought about if I didn't resolve it.
Do
And
you
one of
like
the,
that? Do you like that about yourself? Or
no,
okay,
no,
are you going
I feel
to
obligated. It's a curse.
wait a
But
minute?
but
It's,
all my blended family members are demanding it of me because they have enough to argue about without
you're
this.
afraid, you're afraid you've been mad in the picture. What are the songs? I
I
do this.
wish, I wish, here's my favorite, and I've been listening to it 3 times a day. I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. And that has been the overriding question of my life. And the pleasure of my age, I had a good friend who was told he was going to die next week.
You do now?
I did. He
Oh,
died.
okay.
But before he died, I was with him. And Bob was his name. And he said, I've never felt freer in my life. I know my wife and family are grieving, but I feel enormous freedom. And I heard that. And I thought,
Wow.
do I have to wait for a death sentence to experience that?
Wow.
That's the question I have for myself. I mean, I keep flirting with it. I don't have the courage to deal with it directly or know how. But all these little things, even the little, you asked me yesterday, Peter, you want to talk? And my thought is now, there's nothing to wait for now. I had other things going, so we talked today instead of last night. But most people say it's just sometime in the next 2 months so we can have a conversation.
Oh God, I don't know. It makes me crazy. Um,
Anyway, so what's the moment in this conversation that struck you or meant the most to you?
um, it's more than this is not, it's more that we had the conversation, which is unusual for me to have this conversation with someone who can respond in real time with genuine thoughts, a reflection. That's what this has meant to me. Your capacity to do it, your willingness to do it, but your capacity to think reflectively, because I find it rarer and rarer to find people who can think reflectively, who can think adjacently, who can think laterally. That's just getting very difficult. A lot of young people don't know how to do it. So it's a breath of fresh air
It's
intellectually.
lonely. It's lonely to have that kind of longing and find it so rarely.
So one of the songs I want played in my memorial will be a song by the Miles Davis Quintet called "It Never Entered My Mind." It never entered my mind.
I'll write it down. I
Oh
love
my
it.
God, it's so beautiful.
That's
I
that's
would,
part of your that's one of your funeral songs.
yeah. And then also I got some James Brown songs that I went there just to shock people, just to fuck around with them. So
No, no, come on, no, no. If it's not shocking, you're not taking it seriously.
exactly.
Another one of mine is uh, I think it's going to rain today. You know, broken windows, empty hallways, pale dead moon in the sky, and tin can at my feet. Take it down the street. That's the way to treat a friend. That's my kind of song.
Oh my goodness. That's a great question to ask people. What songs at your memorial service?
Yeah, what's
Um,
your funeral songs?
Yeah, people are so they have to sit there and take it no matter. Finally, you're sitting down. I'm gonna tell you what I want to listen to.
I don't know. Play these songs and leave me alone. This is
I like
fun.
that thought about I've never felt freer in my life.
I
I
wish
mean,
I knew how it feels to be free. I heard Nina Simone sing it the night Martin Luther King died in New York. And
where were you?
I was in Village Gate. I was living in New Jersey. A friend who was from out of town, Dick, was in town. We scheduled to go to the Village Vanguard was the name of it or something like that
Yep, the Vanguard.
in the village.
Yep.
And so we went. The place was mostly empty. King had died that day before. And Nina Simone sang, I wish I knew how it feel to be free.
Wow.
And she sang it for like 10 minutes. And it changed my life. It gave me, I don't know, something that I had a purpose when I walked out of that room,
Hmm.
other than making a living. Anyway, this is
Um,
beautiful, John. Yeah. Thank you.
well,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much. Thank you so much for taking time to chat
Thank
with me.
you. This is part one.
Okay, great.